Hello and welcome back to these Excel lessons in Teacher Joe's classes. Today we are going to learn about absolute and relative cell referencing as used in Excel. Now first of all, to define what an absolute cell reference is that it remains constant when a formula is copied, whereas a relative cell reference keeps changing based on how you copy a formula. For us to do that lesson, I have a worksheet that is already prepared. It has items, quantity per set, import price in USDs, and then total import price, equivalent in Kenya shillings and tax in Kenya shillings. Now, to demonstrate the work of an absolute and a relative cell reference, I'll start with the relative cell reference. To get the total import price, we use a formula. We start with equals, then we say it is price per set multiplied by the quantity per set. Then you press enter. So if you check on the formula bar, it shows C4 multiplied by B4. And that gives us the total import price in USD. If you click and drag, it keeps computing for each of the cells. And where there are no cells, if you drag, it gives you a 0. But if you put a number here like say 5, and here you put another number like 7, then the answer is computed automatically. So this has used an absolute a relative cell reference, sorry. It has used relative cell referencing. Now for absolute cell reference, we are going to convert the equivalent in Kenya shillings. So to convert dollars into Kenya shillings, we multiply, because $1 is, we are given the rate here to be 105. So we get the total import price times the equivalent in Kenya shillings, which is 105. So D4 times C1, then if we press enter, it gives us the equivalent in Kenya shillings. If we copy this formula, what will happen is it copies the preceding value, the values below. Right now it gives us null value because if you see the highlighted cell, it has copied cell blue, that is D6, and multiplied it with cell C3, which is highlighted in red, which is an error. So for us to convert that and to make sure that the constant, the USD rate here is referenced constantly, we have to make the formula an absolute. And how you do that, you double click again to see the formula, and the cell that we want to make absolute is cell C1. So we select C1, and then on our keyboard, listen, on our keyboard you press F4, 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 then that makes the change. It puts a $sign before C and a $sign before 1. In other words, a $sign before the column and a $sign before the row. Then that makes that cell to be absolute. Then once you press enter, and then we copy the formula now, the computer now is able to compute, and each of the values here, the reference is C1 because it's already made an absolute cell reference. So that is how you make absolute cell reference. We'll do it again with this other example. We want to compute the total tax in Kenya shillings, which will be is equals to this amount multiplied by the tax, which is 16%. If we press enter again, it gives us the tax. And if we copy the formula downwards, what happens? It gives us wrong values, because it is, if for example, if we double click this, you see the blue and the red highlighted cells make reference to the wrong value, particularly the red value. So to make it absolute again, we come here, we double click to access the formula, then we make C2 absolute. We select it and we press F4 on the keyboard. Now while we are at it, the F4 is a toggle. If you press it once, it makes the cell absolute. So $C, $2. If you press F4 again, it makes the row absolute. We'll explain that in another lesson. And if you press F4 again, it makes the column absolute. If you press again, it removes absolute and makes it relative. But for now, we want it to be absolute cell reference. Then you press enter. Then we copy the formula. And voila, it has computed based on the tax. So if now we double click, we are able to see that it is still making reference to C2, $C, $2. Now, there is nothing wrong in typing the $C, $2. If your keyboard F4 is not working or you're not able to see the function key, if you're using a different device, you can still type the $signs before the column and the row numbers. That will still work. Why is this important and why do we have to learn it? Number one, it makes sure that you are able to automate your work. If the rate tomorrow changes and you still have imported, you want to see the equivalent. Maybe the rate has gone to 120. You just come here and change to 120, USD rate to Kenya shillings, and then you press enter and the computation changes. Or if the dollar loses against the shilling and now it's the 75, then you press enter, then you can be able to see the effect. Again, if the tax changes, maybe from 16% now to 14%, and you press enter, then the tax are automatically computed on this side. So that's why it is important to use absolute cell references, particularly where you have constants that you may want to work with across multiple cells in a worksheet. So thank you so much for watching. I trust that after viewing this, you can practice and your working in Excel will become much easier and much better because now you know about absolute and relative cell referencing. Thank you and see you in the next lesson.